In 2019, we decided to pitch our own Rainbow Six Siege operator ideas to the game's designers, and it's fair to say that the results were mixed.
This is a terrible idea. Oh god.
We can't argue that it's not fun.
Much to our surprise, and yours, they seem to mostly gravitate towards Jesse's ridiculous General Grevious idea.
Super ballsy,
so
sure.
pretty brave for you.
So when we got the chance to pitch more operators, we decided to not only lean into the madness, but turn the stupid way up to 11. Let's see what they make of this.
3, 2, 1, let's go.
Hi, my name is Dale, and my operator is called Pritt, who's a 2-speed, 2-armor defender. Pritt is a Dutch master manipulator of the sticky stuff. That's right, he's a glue man. So Pritt has a huge canister on his back that can fire glue, and this glue can stick to any surface. I'm talking fire it onto floors to slow people down, even catch drones. You can fire it in front of shields like Clash of Shield to obscure vision. Pritt also has a unique type of grenade called the sticky tether, which when it goes off within a radius of an operator, it can attach them to any surface that's nearby, or even another operator, and bang the two of them together. And that just sounds really fun to me, so let's do it.
It's funny, there's a lot of things in it that are interesting. First step back that I have to take from it is like it's something that's going to affect movement speed of operator, which we know is always difficult to do right. As far as gameplay goes, I like what it can create. I like this sticking two things together too.
Yeah, it's probably super hard to make something like that work in Siege, but the idea of sticking two operators together and linking them is like makes me think a bit about like the Enigma black hole in Dota, or there's a similar operator, a similar hero in Overwatch.
One of the challenges is to achieve what you want to achieve with your gadget. I feel that you have to aim at the enemy.
Probably.
And outside of shields, if you have to aim at your enemy, the best option always is to shoot them. And
well, I guess there's a radius to that grenade, right?
Okay,
so maybe you can guess that they're here and try to just...
As a grenade, yeah, for sure. It's more the glue gun itself. It's just like, I don't see using the glue gun on an enemy when I can use an AR instead.
No, that's for sure.
Gridlock started with something very similar. At first, a gadget, instead of creating this physical object, the tracks, it was creating spreading the star or goo or whatever around its origin.
Yeah.
Similar to
organic
the creep of
puddles, yeah.
Like the creep of StarCraft, sorry. The creep of StarCraft was inspiration, and it was fairly similar. Like it was this gooey surfaces that expanded and would slow down a rotating defender, and that's very similar. But we realized that we could not do these gooey things, and we went with this really complex physical device that distributes a bunch of things around it.
But it's still less complex than what...
It's still less complex than the glue and the gooey surface, yeah, for sure.
Let me tell you about Darude, the new Finnish attacker coming to Rainbow Six Siege. His ability is, of course, playing 5 seconds of his classic trance banger, Sandstorm, into the comms of the opposing team. Not only does this disorientate them, but it provides the perfect cover for a hard breach. Imagine a thermite going on while Sandstorm's playing in their ears. I mean, it's quite the sight and sound, you could argue. It's different, it's a bit kooky, maybe you'll like it. Get him in.
Okay, that's pretty funny.
I feel like this one is here for the meme potential. So I would immediately object to the global ability for reasons we know now, which is of course global abilities are often like not that fun to play against from the opposing team.
Past the licensing issue, obviously, the fact that like playing with player comms is a very difficult thing because you are not guaranteed that the enemy is using the in-game comm, and usually they won't. I mean, we don't ourselves as well, so I guess playing on the comm is not really super functional. However, I guess the sound is also here to obfuscate other sounds, like you mentioned Outbreach. I assume you play this to prevent bandits from hearing the Outbreach deployment. It's a very, very specific use for a single operator, but playing on sound and obfuscating sound from the enemy team could be interesting, albeit a bit frustrating.
I think it's fine if it's not something global. It has to be something
it cannot be global.
You have to target enemies. There should be some way to play around
like
it.
A sound grenade.
We did prototype a sound like a deafening grenade a while ago. Which wasn't that bad. I can't remember what the exact issues were. I think the main issue was that as Yeah, I remember. We went when you were playing as an attacker and trying to defend defenders, which was a way for you to just move around them without being heard, and so it's a bit like the stun grenade, but without affecting the vision. And from what I remember, the main difficulty was that as an attacker, you never really knew when you affected or not a defender, which, to be fair, could be argued exactly the same way for the stun grenade, which is an issue. But here it was even more punishing because very often you felt like you had defended the other when it wasn't really the case. Like the feedback on whether you affected your opponent or not wasn't very good.
However, it was really interesting in the way the effect was applied, because the stun grenade works with like line of sight, and it has its issues because any kind of it can be blocked with many things, and it makes it unreliable, and it's something we want to work on. But this one was using the sound system to propagate. So if you are behind a cover, you would still be affected if the sound can find a path towards you, and it made it still a bit more reliable.
More
However, it was still
predictable,
exactly. However, it was still very difficult to know if the enemy was affected or not. So you are pushing not
and how
really
much?
well.
Yeah.
And how much exactly.
But I'm not sure. It's still an idea that could come back. We just have to
exactly.
find the right way to make it work.
Exactly, it's not completely gone. Some parts of it could come back definitely. Without.
And of course, we need to think about the Darude song if it comes back. It was perfect.
Hi, I'm Matt, and my operator is Rover, a 3-armoured 1-speed defender from Switzerland. Rover is accompanied at all times by Minka, his faithful dog who will pin down and bite any attacker that comes within close radius. The smart thing here is that Rover has a ball that he can throw that Minka will chase after and stay still with for about 10 seconds. This essentially turns her into a remotely deployable version of Frost's welcome mat.
I think this one is a tribute to our previous creative director, Romain Rimok, who always dreamed about making a dog. There are many reasons why we never did it. I think the first one being it's incredibly costly to do something like that in Rainbow, and there's no guarantee. Like if you start working on something like this, what's sure is gonna be super costly because you have to redo everything what we call 3Cs, so camera, control, and character. So everything that has to do with how you move the dog. Here with this specific version, you don't control the dog ourselves, from what I understand in the pitch.
Which raises another set of issues.
Yeah, which raises like a lot of other issues like pathfinding.
Like pathfinding is a hard challenge in many games, but for us, since the level changes during the game, it's even worse. So that's tricky. It's also making a dog is a whole endeavor in terms of animations, but not impossible, but a lot of work. And I think the final point I would add to that is, I know we are a very violent game, but I still don't want to shoot at a dog in the game. I don't know, and I think I'm not the only one. I guess my main problem with that kind of ideas, if you don't control directly, is it means I have an AI on the floor, the dog being an AI, and I'm not a fan in a PvP game of having AIs. Like Maestro, for example, used to have his thread being independent and shoot on its own. And something that can affect the enemy that is controlled by an AI, or even just an AI in the game, I don't think it's either not really interesting in itself, but also it's a tough thing to balance, because the AI will have like a fixed skill level essentially, which means that whatever the skill level we choose, it's going to be too strong for a large portion of the population and too weak for everyone else.
But to be fair, the design that Matt suggested is that the delivery system is pretty much controlled by the player himself, and the behavior of the dog seems to be pretty automatic in this version. But still, there's still necessarily the question of, okay, when I see the dog coming a victim of it, how do I, what am I allowed to do to react to it? And so there's always going to be some notion of automatic things coming from the dog, and we're still gonna get back to the issue.
Exactly, like the reaction time of the dog, all those things, and even like if you toss the ball anywhere, how is the dog gonna reach that position? Most cases, you just won't be able to.
Hello, I'm Jesse, and my operator is codenamed Uda. They are Team 6's first 0 armor and 4 speed attacker. Uda has 2 strengths. Number 1 is the highly lubricated costume that they are wearing, allowing them to slip and slide through any of the vents within the playable map. And 2, finger oil, which allows them to fire a concentrated stream of olive oil through their fingertips, temporarily blinding enemies and causing gadgets not to stick to any fired on surface. Just like Grievous, I think we have a pretty clear winner here.
Okay.
Shooting at surfaces to prevent deployment feels like something you'd have to do either with a drone or with something where you can do it preventively. Otherwise, most things are going to be deployed before you can just look at that at said surface. So there's a timing potential issue here, and even shooting directly oil at people.
Same problem as the glue one.
Just kill them. Yeah. But let's get back to the other part of the
the other part,
which is going through the event spaces. This one
there's maybe a few words on the speed armor first. There is still a technical restriction on how fast we can move in the game before we start breaking replication. So speed 4 is very much the maximum we can get. And that's why we don't make operator that goes that fast in case we have something that accelerates them eventually. And then the very interesting part, like JB was mentioning, the vents.
It reminds me of the event, of course, we had where you could transform yourself into a drone and then turn back into an operator. I think it achieves something very similar where you can just hide and go through these vents. It gives you like this sort of Dishonored kind of feeling. It's like a super. It can be super fun to do that.
In Siege. Fundamentally, the idea of having operators that have access to mobility aspect that other don't is something that we are not against, and actually we can like. Oryx is one of them. The ability to climb up a hatch, for example, create that. Like a map is essentially a graph of points connected to each other where you can go, and they have more options than the other. This one, if he goes through vents, I assume he might go through drone holes too, or something like that. Opens a lot of other options based on what you allow them to do. But it's not bad. It's just the other thing.
It's hard to give that ability to an operator that has a gun in his hands. Like as a defender, if you get backstabbed by someone who just went through a drone vent.
Behind you,
Yeah, we need to find really strong ways for defenders to be able to adapt to that and be warned about what's happening, which kind of goes against the idea of attackers trying to slip through and be stealthy, because it feels like something that's stealthy, right? Is it where you want to surprise people doing this? So it's hard to balance for it to be not frustrating for the defender's side.
The other aspect is even in first person, like for drone holes, I kind of get it, but it means you're taking a leap of faith, right? If you go through a vent, or maybe even drone hole, and you are gonna spawn on the very different part of the map with very little intel on it, and it's a bit of a risky move, I guess. Pritt, I like the whole possible creativity with the sticking things together, but I don't know how it will happen, but I like it. The one that on the other hand is the most likely to actually happen in some ways, to me, would be Darude. The dog, I'm sorry, but I don't see it happening. And for Uda, I love the idea of like having new way to travel the map. I'm not sure if this one is the one I would choose.
Fair enough. I think Uda would be my personal favorite, just because I find it very funny to imagine the guy full of olive oil trying to get through the events.
But it's more funny for Uda, definitely.
Okay, so another mixed bag, but we feel like we're making progress, and maybe one day we'll see a sensible adaptation of our characters in the game, although the odds are probably against it. And if you like this video, why not check out the first time the game's designers rated our designs, or when Kickstar, a Siege Pro commentator, critiqued our awful gameplay.